Hi, everyone, and welcome to our ROI of social media presentation with Stephen Groves and Michiel van der Watering. My name is Guy Powell, and I'm founder of ProRelevant, and I will be your host today. We provide strategic and tactical marketing consulting to help marketers use data to build overall marketing effectiveness and, of course, ROI. I'll be introducing our two speakers. And let me begin first with Stephen Groves. He is co-author of the ROI of Social Media, How to Improve the Return on Your Social Marketing Investment. And he was also the technical editor of Secrets of Social Media Metrics by John Lovett. When it comes to marketing ROI, Stephen and myself wrote the book on it, literally. Stephen and I opened ProRelevant Marketing Solutions to offer big brand marketers comprehensive ROI studies of all their marketing. And Stephen took an additional path of working with mid-sized companies. The work with SMBs led to the development of a more targeted offering in Presence Report, a first for marketers, digital or otherwise, looking to improve the effectiveness of their marketing without a seven-figure budget. The methodology that he uses has been run through its paces hundreds of times in the US with thousands of brands, working with a national foundation supporting economic development. Stephen brings those years of conducting and assessing digital research for companies covering thousands of websites to the conversation today. Our goal today is to share research and findings which have been gathered to improve the effectiveness of your digital marketing, regardless of whether you're a big company promoting a brand or a smaller one working to get closer to your buyer and, of course, the next deal. We also have Michiel van der Watering. He is a published author and editor with his first book called Marketing Casa, and that is published in Dutch with the Noordhof Publishers. And his second book is Yes, Accountable Marketing in 2018, which is accountability for results-driven marketing. He's a serial entrepreneur, a global accountable marketing, developing marketing strategies and accountability. He's currently with Thexton Armstrong van der Watering as a franchise partner and business optimization programs for SME and other companies. In addition, he's a partner with ProRelevant Marketing Solutions, providing optimization of marketing and advertising. In this webinar today, Stephen and Michiel will answer any and all of your questions. So Michiel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this introduction, Guy. And I just would like to start why the accountability of marketing is so important and why we would like to have a special webinar on the return on investment of social media strategies. There are a couple of reasons why it became so important, and maybe the most important for some marketers or CMOs is that it's the CEO who demands to. CEO comes up to the marketing department and asks about the result of marketing campaigns, and hardly anybody is able to present their results, whether they're good or bad. So it leaves the marketing manager a bit ashamed watching the CEO, but doesn't have an answer. And another reason is that actually we want to get appreciation for marketing back, because most of the time when the deals are done, sales gets the appreciation and we forget about what marketing is. Marketing, we all know, comes from the two words market getting, and that's what this team has been doing. They've been working their butts off. They've created very good strategies to get the best leads for sales, so sales is able to do the deals. And if we're not accountable in marketing, we're unable to prove and present our added value to the company's bottom line. And that's what this picture is about. The marketing manager or CMO, whatever the real title is frustrated and is not very pleased that marketing doesn't get the credits they're actually entitled to. And another reason is that in the beginning, and we talk maybe a decade ago, it took millions to invest in MarTech to have the good systems available. And now we've seen the maturity of SaaS, marketing automation solutions, of MarTech. They have grown in a way that it's more available for more marketers and organizations to automate all their marketing processes. And while they're automating their processes in marketing, they're also able to prove and present the results that are coming out of marketing. And just to show where it all comes from, it starts in the beginning with a business strategy. And sometimes there it already goes wrong. There's a strategy and there's an organization, but sometimes we're missing the link between them. And the organization, that means how is the company formed? So your management organization, what are the processes about, the culture that you have in your company, and the ICT. And then, of course, the most important, to me, that is the most important department is marketing. And we took here actually Cutler's definitions of marketing. And it's all about the planning, execution, and evaluation of your research that you're doing, your development, your promotion, distribution, and of course your product management. And in the end of the day, it all comes down to what I call campaigns, whether it is the social media strategy that you're running, whether you have an event, online event, or nowadays it will be a bit hard to have a live event, but let's just call that campaigns. And the campaigns, they are created by the marketing team to grow in a certain direction, either to get more customers, so the number of customers will increase, or that the share of wallet of your customers will increase for you, or that you're able to reduce churn and that the customers will stay longer with you, increasing the lifetime value. So you're working from the small cubicle to the large cubicle. And then the marketing performance management comes in, or the accountability of marketing, or marketing accountability. It's got a lot of different names nowadays. And of course, it looks in what way the campaign has driven the three directions that I'm showing here in the picture. But we also need to know how well did marketing, the marketing processes work out. A simple example is that if we're ping-ponging back and forward our briefings and our concepts with the media agencies and the creative agencies, I think there's something to improve there. And then the second step, if we got all these insights in the marketing performance management, we might change the way we're doing marketing, ending up in doing different campaigns, working in a different way. And then, of course, we are also making changes to the organization, the way it's formed. And maybe we even have to change our strategy, because that's what marketing has found out that needs to change. And then, of course, maybe you wonder, so when is the ROI coming in? Well, here it is. When you're developing your campaigns, your social media strategies, or your events, or online marketing campaigns, or whatever you're really doing here, you develop a pre-ROI, meaning that you decide and think of what your campaign added value shall be, what your return on investment of this campaign will be. And afterwards, you will check upon what we call the post ROI. So during the campaign, when it's a long campaign, or afterwards, you will check whether your post return on investment meets the things that you have decided on in the pre-ROI. And that's actually how any campaign can be developed and evaluated by your marketing team. And this will enable your marketing team to prove and present their added value to the company's bottom line. So that is just a short introduction about the accountability of marketing. And what we would like to continue is with a couple of questions for Steve. He just dropped off, as luckily he got back on time. Well done, Steve. Thank you very much for that. And whenever you have a question for us, please feel free to put the question in the chat, and we will respond to that. And later on, we will even make it possible for you to come in the, as we call it, in this session as well, on camera. So, Stephen, would you like to do an introduction of the return on investment of social media? Oh yeah, sorry,
Sure.
that's one thing that's most important. I just explained the pre and the post ROI, and what we would like to meet the post ROI, it should meet the hurdle rate, because that will make the CEO and the CFO very happy among the whole C-suite. If we are able to show that our contribution to the company is on or above the hurdle rate, which is required by our company. So then we go over to Stephen to have a short introduction of the return on investment of social media. So Stephen, please.
Sure. Thanks so much. Can you bring the slide up for me, please?
Yes, this slide.
I'm not seeing it. Do you guys seeing it? Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I see it, Steve.
Awesome. Okay. Well, then what I wanted to be able to talk about relative to the book that Guy and I wrote, the ROI of social media, is that we started working on it together as a collaboration, and then was offered the opportunity to work with the crack team at the publisher. And the question that oftentimes we found trying to be asked at the time was, show me the ROI of digital and I'll be glad to invest in it. I mean, that's the message that we were getting. So at the same time, we would start that investigation and talk with them a little bit about what they were doing with their marketing. And we'd always end up at a point saying, well, show us the ROI of any of your current marketing efforts. And to Michiel's credit and to Guy's and my credit, they didn't have one. They weren't measuring anything at the time. If they did have an ROI study, we're the people that probably delivered it. That's the point. So we just found that people were using this red herring, dragging it across the trail, trying to divert the conversation away from where is marketing going. Because at the time, we didn't have a clear sense that marketing was going to head that way. But there was an idea. A lot of brands were adopting it. As a matter of fact, Guy and I met because of a client that he was working with that was a clothing brand, and I was active and participating in Second Life as a social media platform, because Second Life is exactly that. It is an online community, but it's this immersive experience. So Guy was asking me a little bit about how could a brand work in this environment, and from there we really hit it off. Guy is by far one of the most brilliant people I've ever run into around traditional marketing and marketing metrics. He's just really got a very broad handle on things. And I started working more deeply in the digital marketing side of things. Well, fast forward another 5 years when we got the book out. And at this point, digital marketing was starting to be accepted. But again, it started taking the CMO to a point where they had to say, you know, it's a good point that now I can measure everything when it comes to digital. The real question is, what are we doing with our other stuff? And we started seeing a lot more investment in ROI culture in companies. And that's the point, is we started seeing that investment occurring. So we started getting a lot more interest, a lot more business in terms of what we were trying to do. Fast forward to today, digital marketing, social media marketing, the use of digital technology in distributing the marketing message. It's the most measurable content on the planet, number one. Number two is that it's tremendously productive. I think Guy and I go back and forth as to whether or not the Super Bowl ad is more effective. or maybe it's the avocado ad. I don't know. But the point is that I think we've pretty much come on a point where we recognize the real value of digital as a tactic, and the fact that it continues to produce a strong return on investment. The dollar invested in digital marketing today does in fact produce that stronger return. We can get that 5-10 times return on investment from our digital marketing. So that's where we are today. That's the conversation that I want to talk about a little bit later on as questions go back and forth about what are the metrics that are really going to pay off today? What are the things that we need to pay attention to that show the true value of whether or not we're getting the value out there, the payoff on our digital marketing. So that's the way that the ROI of social media has advanced. That's where we are today. Now we recognize how much of a payoff it provides us, and now people are leaning hard into it pretty well.
Okay, thanks a lot, Stephen, for this introduction. And let's continue with a couple of questions that I have and I would like to start a discussion with. And of course, Guy, feel free to jump in. And as well as for the attendees, if you have any additional questions to the things that Stephen answers, let's have a conversation via the chat. That will be awesome. So, Stephen, just the first question. As social media makes a lot of people think of likes and comments and followers and things like that to build your brand awareness. And do you have any clue on how this adds to a company's bottom line?
If we stopped at just the likes, if we just stopped there, I think we'd be pretty far away from being able to determine whether or not there's any strong value to that. If we take that, though, as one of the metrics, and only one of them, in terms of how aware is the marketplace of us and our brand and our products, well, there is an indication there. We can take that as kind of a proxy for that kind of interest. But it's not the true engagement, because it's just too easy today to be able to just buy those likes. You can buy likes, it's not a big deal. You can buy followers, it's not a big deal. If we're out there earning them organically, however, we're going to get this trailing effect of awareness that's going to absolutely bring people back to us when it comes time for them to buy what it is we're offering. Whether we're doing this in a B2B environment, in other words, a business selling to other businesses, or if we're talking about business to consumers, and really the model we're starting to see emerge in the CV19 era is the direct to consumer. Manufacturers are just bypassing distribution and retail and going straight to consumers. That's going to have another big impact going forward, I think. But the answer to the question about whether or not likes are the metric that we need to try to stay with, I don't think so. I think we need to go to the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually, if I can jump in real quick, one of the big metrics that seems to be coming to fore is what's called an attention metric. And that, is not just likes, but it's, it's also the time on site and the amount of time that you're actually getting in the mind and the eyeball of your consumers. And all of those things do play into building awareness and maintaining awareness for your brands.
Okay, so actually, is there a way to indicate how important analyzing the qualitative instead of just the quantitative results of social media, and how does one organize this? I mean, it's easy to measure the quantitative things, but qualitative measurements might be more difficult. So please elaborate a little bit on that.
They really are. Guy, I'll take the first one. I think you've got input on this as well. One of the things that we're seeing at digital side is that Google is actually extending some of the metrics and inventing new ones. One of them that we're seeing that was kind of a springboard off of structured markup. I don't know if you guys have seen much around structured markup. One of the springboards that we're seeing off of structured markup is this rich results test that Google is now applying to websites. These rich results actually help us understand how and where we can pop up in that right hand side of the search window, so that we now know, or we can now understand when that shows up, what's the impact on our click-through rate. So we've been talking about structured markup for several years. Now we're starting to move the conversation into rich results, because now we can actually start measuring that. And there is a qualitative component in that. So Google is very interested in presenting not just authoritative, in other words, well linked to content, but they're also now interested in being able to make sure that the content is useful to the searcher and that it has value. So it's starting to be actually one of the components that we need to pay attention to in SEO.
Yeah, and I think that, you bring up the right point there in terms of, content marketing, and what we've seen in social media especially is, good content's always better than bad content, but brands that really seem to stand out do have really, really good content across all of their media channels, like Steve was saying, and whether it's in search or in social or in paid digital. So that kind of content marketing and measurement of content marketing, I think, is where you're trying to get to, Michiel, in terms of looking at the qualitative aspects of your marketing messaging.
Yeah, because they can also add up to the bottom line in the end of the day. So that's why it's very important to have that measurement as well, and people might even understand where it comes from, instead of the harder to understand the quantitative results. Another thing is that we talk about branding aspects of social media. Sometimes people talk about the PR value of social media, or even the just use it as an instrument, and use social media as a strategy to build your PR activities with. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between online PR and social media?
Absolutely. What the way that I tend to view PR when it comes to an online environment is that it's one of the tactics we need to pursue. And the reason why I think we need to pursue it as a tactic as opposed to something apart from marketing overall is because the task of marketing is to make sure that we're presenting messaging to the appropriate audience around our company, our product, our service, our brand. I mean, that's the intent. And in order to do that and in being able to use PR as part of that tool set is that it puts us in front of the right people who are already talking to our audience.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking to those people and they're representing our content to that audience, if we wrote a blog post, if we presented a white paper, whatever it is we're presenting, if we're going to work with those people and making sure that we're in front of the right audience, it becomes that tactic to make sure that we're getting the high value links, that we're getting the traffic and the awareness and visibility, which is the overarching objective of our online presence. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't see digital PR as a broken out tactic from digital. It's right. Part of the toolkit.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Presence Report measures as well is kind of the quality of the inbound links and inbound traffic. And if you look at your search engine rankings, it's very dependent upon those inbound links. And PR has a clear link, a clear connection to good quality links. Yes. And so one of the so we're working with a big museum, and one of the objectives of the museum's PR is to make sure that as they get news, that they continue to focus on high quality links. So getting a link from CNN.com or Washington, one of the WashingtonPost.com or whatever, those are significantly better than otherwise. And so making sure that PR function drives those articles with those properties so that they then connect into the digital property of the museum in this case, then that drives your social, that drives your search presence and your search value. And then and then all of that being measured and tracked, through some kind of a reporting in this presence report is one very valuable tool to do that.
Yeah, it's great to see all these companies that are jumping in and do some measurement and tracking and investigation to see not only how many mentions you have in all kinds of other news sites, but also what is the value? Is it a positive one or is it negative? How's the environment? Is it a medium which is also very important for your target audience, or is it just a general news site just taking your article or copying your article and content over there? Yeah, absolutely. So just another question to continue this. For social media, we talked about it's very valuable for branding, but do you think it will also be suitable for product campaigns, just as it is for brand campaigns?
Short answer, yes. The digital. Hold on. No, we actually can use Presence, and we actually have a new product getting ready to launch called Presence B2B, which is specifically designed for the B2B audience to actually bring some additional signals to bear. But the point is that yes, absolutely it matters, and by incorporating that into our overall strategy, we're going to be able to make sure that we achieve the best. We're going to optimize the ability of our efforts, of our investments of time and money to provide the results we're looking for.
Yeah,
and I think too, the state of the business makes a big difference. What you're selling, how new or how old is the product that you're selling?
Absolutely,
really makes a big difference, and that's kind of where what Michiel kind of brought up in terms of the his marketing performance measurement. You really need to look at the whole thing and all of that in context, and to be able to really say whether product promotion on on social media is going to work better than branding, and and then given the state of the business, the state of the product and the channel and the category and all of that other stuff.
Yeah. So the idea though of then layering our campaigns, that we're talking about, the company, and then we're talking about the brand, and then we're talking about the product. There might even be a celebrity somewhere in there, right? We can layer those campaigns, and digital marketing, social media is a part of all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing is the device that people are reading, watching, whatever you call it, the social media activities. If there's a call to action, and then it's very hard to buy anything because you have to go through a long list or a long form, then of course it won't work. And sometimes I see companies completely forget about it, that people are looking at social media on their phones, on their tablets, and then it should be have a very easy a follow up on the call to action that you're requiring from them. Yeah. But of course, the answer is short. Yes, you can use it, but you have to use it in a proper way. Absolutely. Yeah, we said before the quantitative measurements on internet are numerous. You can measure whatever you like. Every click, everything is measured online. So just like all online activities, is social media measurements are easy to get, or is it quite difficult to get the right insights from it?
I love that question, because a big part of what we do in our day in and day out work is we're actually looking for those publicly available signals that are not part of any clickstream. In other words, there's the data that's out there in digital. I mean, a lot of data, but not all of it comes available to you in something where you can simply take your mouse, click, and get it. So we actually have researchers that go out and gather data that's not available through any clickstream. These include engagement signals. These include signals from digital, from social media, that are not part of Twitter's clickstream. You don't have information about what are the last 30 days posts. What's the sentiment of just those last 30 days?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
It's getting hard to actually find the proper KPIs, which is why presence is what it is. We actually have spent a lot of time looking at the data that's available through the clickstreams, found it to be insufficient to guide our clients. So what we'll do is we'll take our researchers, go out and find our own fresh data that is particularly relevant to the volume and velocity of activity, as well as the follower accounts in a variety of platforms and the activity on the website. So the answer is no, not all the data is available in a clickstream. You have to go out and look for it. It's exactly that characteristic of the data that has made presence what it is today.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Guy?
Dittos.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The one thing I would like to add to it is that we talk about KPIs, and sometimes company they lose sight of the K in KPI, and the K indicates the key. So it will be the most important performance indicators that you're using.
Right.
And yes, of course, if you're not taking care, then you will probably have a lot of data to go through to get to your right insights. And I really like the way that you add. It's not only the clickstream available data, but there's a lot more going on that you can measure, and you can really use. Become the added value of your measurements and your reports. Absolutely, yeah. So, well, you just mentioned the risk of data overload while measuring social media outcomes. So maybe you have a suggestion for marketers how to decide on the real KPIs. As I just explained, the real KPIs are, actually absolutely the most important ones that will give you the insights to base your next steps, your next strategies on.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is about the work that we try to do. We very much are looking at those KPIs that actually add to the value stream, that actually are part of the journey to purchase. So we're very interested in that data. Guy has been doing that for some time with not just digital data, but really the larger question in terms of where most marketing investment used to go was in traditional. Well, now we're seeing a larger portion being allocated oftentimes to digital. In the age of CV19, I'm not sure how much is going to be left in traditional, but we are very much looking at a migration, and it's the use of those tools and tactics that help us understand those KPIs that are going to help us make sure we stay on track. I mean, Guy, you've been working in that area really much longer than either Michiel or I. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. For me, and Steve touched on it in a couple of his answers. It all has to do with what is the consumer journey, what's the consumer purchase journey, And sometimes you can look at the funnel, with impressions kind of going in at the top, and then awareness, consideration, purchase intent, and then finally purchase, and then advocacy as part of the funnel. And one of the things that I found, which is kind of interesting, a lot of the marketing and media channel managers are using very tactical kind of metrics to measure the success of the channel that they're working on. So if I'm looking at search, then I'm going to look at, well, how many people clicked and how many people converted, and and I'm going to optimize that. Nothing wrong with that. That from a tactical day-to-day kind of a operation, that's pretty critical. But in the bigger picture, all of that stuff has to flow together in terms of how does the TV advertisement drive awareness or drive purchase intent, which drives then that search, which then leads to an online click and some attention, and then finally, hopefully, conversion or advocacy later on. And it's that complete path that's really where the fun starts for me, is putting all of that together. And we've seen, Michiel talked about dashboards and marketing dashboards, and we've seen, where media channel folks kind of looking at a dashboard that's very specific to what they're doing. So Google Data Studio or some of the other dashboards that are out there, very specific to the task that they have at hand. But in reality, what you really need is, at least at the CMO level, and and maybe at the director level, is a dashboard that really looks at, okay, here's what we spent, here are the impressions we got, here's then kind of the awareness, here's the attention we got, here's the level of interactivity and clicks and what have you, and then finally, hopefully conversion. And you really need to put that all together and put it into context is really the term.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. You said hopefully some conversion down below after a lot of other KPIs to follow. But what's, according to you, Stephen, the most important KPI next to the return on investment of social media?
Well, the I out of ROI is certainly it. I mean, when Guy and I wrote the book, we had people trying to promote the idea that I was something other than investment. Return on influence, return on into what? I mean, they were coming up with stuff. I'm going, what? But the bottom line is the guy writing the check is only interested in one thing.
Yeah.
How many dollars did I get back? So that's where we know that the process has to end up. So the question about how we get there, well, let's go ahead and back into that, because what we understand is that there are systems out there that actually help us understand whether or not we're well structured enough to perform in SEO. That's an important characteristic. Yeah, Google looks for technically diligent sites to promote. If you're not technically well set up, they're not going to be able to promote you. Second is that once you get that visitor, how are we engaging? And that's a metric that needs to be brought into the conversation. And lastly, around the attract and connect side of things, is how are we drawing people there with our presence on digital, in social media is what I'm trying to say. Because in social media, we know the audience is there. What is it? Somewhere around 7 out of 10 people on the planet are in Facebook. Yeah. I think 90% of the planet is in social media of one form or another, whether you're in China and Weibo, or if you're in the United States and part of Facebook, or Europe and part of Facebook, or whatever. The audience is online, so you cannot expect ever to come offline ever again.
Yeah,
CV19 is showing. Yeah, CV19 is showing us that if you're not online, you might as well be invisible.
Yeah,
you just might as well be. Yeah. So the most important metric is, of course, are we online? Second, can we be found? That's an important metric. That's a fundamental. But once we get all of that system built up, what I would encourage people to pay attention to is, where am I versus my competitor? Because you're never in a market alone. Never in a market alone. And if you're not getting the business, you think the customer stopped buying? No, they have to stop buying. They're going to buy, and they're likely to buy from your competitor. So if you understand where you are versus your competitor, you can make you can make a much wiser investment. Yeah. In terms of where you put your time and money. So those are the types of things that I would encourage marketers to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing is that sometimes is overlooked is that we only look at social media because then we think it is the solution to get the right leads and the right qualitative leads. But then we forget about what happens after the call to action. If the call to action is a link through our website and the website is really outdated and not working properly, then you might have a lot of success in the KPIs for social media that you track, but then it all goes down the drain because your website is outdated and not adding value to what you promised on the social media. So
Right.
that's always, I think, a discussion within the company. They're really enthusiastic about running social media campaigns, and then they forget about what will be the landing page, what will be the funnel afterwards, and how we will follow up from there. Yeah, and not even because that will be about the next question. Not only the online activities, but also are we able to follow up on by calls, by our shops, by our branches, or wherever the customer is directed to. So that is more or less the next question then is, what is the offline impact of social media and how to measure those results there as well?
Oh gosh, may I start that one, Guy? Because I got a real short answer. Because the result has to be a visit and sale. I mean, that's absolutely where we have to take this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not getting them to the website, if we're not engaging them in such a way that they understand what they need to be able to do to connect with us to make a sale, well, we're gosh, we're not even in the ballpark, much less the game.
Yeah.
So. But Guy, if I can use digital to draw them into a retailer, or distribution outlet, or even just the website, what's the next step?
Yeah, well, and to your point, Michiel, and your question in terms of online versus offline conversion, that there's if I can't get them into the store now, obviously with COVID-19, you maybe don't want them in the store. But nevertheless, there are some things, some products that it just sell better in the store. And so I was in an apparel retailer over the weekend, and they were, they had all of their COVID protections and stuff like that. But the online activities as well as the offline activities have to be geared to, driving where you're going to get the most likely conversion. Mm-hmm. The other big challenge, especially for smaller businesses that are on the B2B or on the B2B2C, so there's a salesperson in the middle. It's those salespeople are in the middle, whether they're on the phone selling or whether they're selling face to face, or I like the term belly to belly. Then those folks, also need to see how each of these different media channels are driving the value of those conversations. And to your point, it doesn't just stop with a lead. It also stops with how you can make sure that you've set the expectations right. You know what the process is. You're going to get a call or some kind of a follow-up. It's going to be handed off properly. And that whole transition is going to work well from that first touch point in marketing all the way out to the final conversion through, in this case, through a belly-to-belly or over the phone salesperson.
Of course, in the age of CV-19, it's not belly-to-belly, it's mask-to-mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a difference, please.
Yeah, and there's also another impact that I see, and where you use social media, of course, also for building trust. And for instance, if you have a large construction firm and you're building offices or a lot of housing or things like that, or roads even, then I see that the postings on social media, they do actually have effect in the way sales is done. And it's much easier to get the sales done because they've seen the other projects that you have been doing. And otherwise you should have shown them on a paper or a print or maybe on your own laptop. But now your potential customer has already seen them and probably has also read some comments on it from other parties that are very happy with what you've done there and what you've contributed to the community while building your housing and other construction business. So really see that it works there as well. And it's also measurable to do that. So,
and especially in that example, excuse me, Michiel, in that example, that's if you're building a home, even or home repair or whatever, incredibly long sales cycles, and you have to maintain that connection with the prospective buyer, whether it's a office building or a home, throughout that entire purchase process, which can be very, very long. And so that's where all of those online activities really make a big difference.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for adding that. So we talked about a lot of results, offline, online, right on selling your products and services or building your brand. So can you explain a little bit more about how marketers take the algorithms of social media into account when they are analyzing the results?
I don't think most marketers do. I mean, I think that what we're seeing is that if I'm a marketer today, a lot of times I'm using the simple route. I'm going to invest maybe in a tool like SEMrush or Moz or something like that, Ahrefs, whatever. I click, I get some stuff, I put it into a report that's that thick, I deliver it to the client, go, well, the data's in there. Yeah, sure, we know how you're doing. No, you don't. Because all you're getting is clickstream data. You're not paying attention to the KPIs. You're not providing the relationship with the client to actually improve things. So this is where, again, the idea of being able to find the proper metric, find the proper audience, make sure that we're well structured, and then have a springboard that we can execute the campaigns into, is really the fundamental component that's going to be that has to be paid attention to. So the data, the click streams that are out there, many times, you talked earlier about vanity metrics. Many times that's where they stop because they just don't know where the other metrics are. They don't know what the data is that matters. So they stop there, and that's a lazy behavior. Fair enough, Daniel Kahneman, my hero, and the psychologist that won the Nobel Prize in economics, pointed out that consumers are going to continue to make easy decisions over hard ones. And it's an easy, and marketers are no different. I'm not going to fault them for it. It's just what they've got. But they're going to use the easy data that's easy to get. They're not going to take the effort to find the right data. Well, that's where people like you and I and Guy come in, is we really work hard at trying to find out, A, what's the right data on this client in this industry? Let's make sure that they've got that available. Let's help them. Let's be a partner in that process. So that's what I would say about the quality of the data and the behavior of a lot of marketers today.
And you really need to understand a little bit more about the algorithms to see where the results are coming from and what environment they're coming from and how LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the social media platforms are processing their postings.
Sure. So when you take a look at the data that comes out of our presence report, we actually take subsets of that data. We'll take it and summarize it so that you get the essential information. We add to it our own basic research, real research that we go out and we look at people's websites, gather data. We gather data off the social environments that isn't collected anywhere else. That's the stuff that really shows how we're doing and whether or not we've got an area we need to improve on.
So Guy, please, you would like to add something?
And actually I was going to have Steve talk about it, is, it's not just measurements of what you're doing, but how you benchmark against your competition. And most, like Steve said, you take the easy route and you do your own stuff, but in reality, you really need to see, how you're doing. And maybe Steve, talk about, how you measure and how those measurements benchmarking against the competition are really pretty critical.
They really are. I mean, here's the scenario is that I find a lot of small to medium business owners, and I'm sure you find this as well, Michiel, that they think somehow they're competing against Microsoft or Google to be found on the internet. They're not. There's 5, 6, 8 competitors in their industry. If it's a big industry, there might be hundreds of competitors. I get it. But there's only so many that are going to compete with them around their specific product, their niche, their region, whatever it is. So it's those guys that are taking your business. It's not Microsoft. It's not Google. Well, Microsoft and Google, they want to. I mean, Google is implementing product listing ads. I don't know if you guys have paid much attention to that. Google wants you to buy from the PLA. They really do. That's why they're building the platform. It's similar to what we're seeing with the Amazon marketplace, which of course was a springboard off of what we saw on eBay, where people were coming and offering whatever they want. Microsoft, Google are trying to do the very same things in their product listing areas. They want you to be able to buy right there, right after you search for it. So we're seeing behaviors that push people that way.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, we're almost coming to the final question, but before that question, there's one. We talked about results, measurements, data, information. So can you tell us what would be the best way to organize social media analytics?
Yeah, I would probably continue. I'm sorry, again, please.
As a marketeer, I mean that. Not as an agency, sure. But just as a marketer, team or whatever.
We're talking to the chief marketing officer here. We're talking about the guy who is in the company, who is responsible for a budget of some kind, perhaps a team of some kind, at least an outside team of some kind, which quite honestly is the way most businesses approach this question anyway. They don't always try to build internally. They'll bring in people from outside. It's not very unusual at all. In fact, I think 70% of businesses do that. But it's having that team available to help answer those questions and help bring that data to bear.
Yeah. All right. I have got my final question for you. And you earlier already said that the one who's paying the bill, who's signing the check for the marketing budget, is very keen on getting information on the return on investment, where the I absolutely stands for investment, no doubt about it. So in what ways can marketers interest senior management, the ones who are paying the bill, to invest in social media, or even more importantly, to invest in measuring and analyzing the return on investment of social media, which doesn't come just as that. Yeah.
Exactly. Guy and I have talked with marketers before in companies, and we've talked with executives in companies before. And one of the things that we see is that a company is going to spend hundreds or thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of dollars on just banking services.
Yeah.
So here they're spending money to find out how much money they have.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay. Now let's go ahead and turn that model on its head. So marketing brings you customers every month. How much you investing in measuring, like you do in banking? You're measuring how much you got in the bank. How much you investing in measuring your marketing? And the answer oftentimes for companies is, or close to. They're investing in marketing, but they're not measuring it. And that's really where companies like ours step in, is we provide those fundamental components that help you measure more effectively. We train people on being able to learn the culture of ROI. So the answer to the question is, you have to start with a culture of return on investment across the entire marketing organization. People need to care whether or not the dollar that's invested in the organization is getting the dollars back to the company. So that's the first bit. The second bit is you need to uncover those KPIs that show we're on the right path. And then obviously you need to show that the sales are occurring, that we've got some attribution back to digital. And Guy, I don't know, the attribution models that we're building these days, do they ever exclude digital, or do they always include digital?
No, they start with digital, basically.
So the point is that you want to know what's paying off. Pay attention to your digital. It really is where you're going to have to make your investments, not just up to today, but in the future. I'm not sure there's another path forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the term that I use, and Steve and Michiel, I think as well, is what is the ROI of ROI, and and what we've found is usually tens to hundreds of times better than the media that you're actually investing in, to actually buy impressions.
Yeah.
And so the ROI of ROI is really critical, and and as well as Steve said, if you're going to try and track how much cash you have in the bank, you're going to spend money to do that. If you're going to measure what's going on the manufacturing floor, you're going to spend money to do that. And yet, as Steve said, is the big duck egg, the big zero, is what quite often marketers spend on measuring their own effectiveness. And that and I think the three of us we are on a mission to change that.
I think it's changing. I do see it changing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point where we didn't hear much about competitive assessments. Well, now competitive assessments are almost de rigueur. You do look across you and your competitors more often. Some of the data points that we've been promoting and using for years are now starting to make their way into other systems and whatnot. So I think we're having an impact in our own way. We're influencers of a vein.
Absolutely. It's really great because we didn't talk about this before, but this is actually the final slide we wanted to talk about that I put in here, and that's the return of accountable marketing, or the ROI of ROI. So I showed this this pic before. It's the CEO coming to the marketing department requesting about the results of marketing campaigns. And if we look at the return of marketing, there it is. So the results are, of course, more profit because you have less weight. You have more responsibility of the budget. I think that is a very strong driver nowadays for marketers and CMOs to become accountable and to show their return on investments of marketing, whether it's social media or events or whatever. And it really takes back marketing takes marketing back into the boardroom. So they are really a partner for the CMO and CFO. And I had a very nice conversation with a CMO last week, and he said actually the CMO is only a CMO when he or she knows and understands the language of the CEO and the CFO. And they really have a holistic view on the accountability of marketing and the marketing strategies that they're working on. So you also get a higher customer satisfaction because you're not just wasting your marketing budget and sending whatever campaigns you would like to send to your target audience, but you start thinking about what will be a real good proposition for my audience, for my customers. And then, of course, you get a stronger alignment with sales. That must be done. If you're not aligning with sales, it's very hard to increase the effectiveness of marketing because you don't get their qualitative data or their insights when they talk to customers and what customers liked about our campaigns or not, whether it's social media or something else. And then, of course, you have a better lead quality. So we're almost running to the top of the hour. Maybe there are some more questions in the chat, or people can also raise their hands and speak up to get their questions in. And finally, when you're able to prove and present the return on investment of social media, whatever other marketing strategies they're running, then we see a change in the marketing department. They're very happy to show the results to the CEO. Whether the results are good or bad, I think that's not the important thing. It's very important that you understand what has happened in your marketing campaigns and where you are able to improve the next campaign that you're running on social media, on online marketing, email marketing, or wherever that you're working on. So we were very happy. We'll just put this in the video later, so you get my bio as Guy presented it, and the bio of Stephen as well. And whenever there is any further questions, we would love to discuss the things that you would like to know about the ROI of social media, of the ROI of any other marketing activities. And then the three of us are very happy to work with you. So if you would like to, you can book a call, just a discovery call, and see how we can take you from there. And it's quite an easy URL, I think, because we would like to meet. And who would you like to meet? Well, you would like to meet the accountable marketing expert. So go to meet.accountable.expert, and we'll have a chat and see how we can help you with your return on investment of marketing activities. Just going back to Guy and Stephen, if there's anything you would like to add for our audience.
No, I was going to follow up with a question to Guy. Remember when we did the interview with that fellow that worked for Dell, and he said, "Hey, I can prove the ROI," and he was confident he could go back to the board and say, "Hey, I need another $3 million," and because he could show the ROI, he got $3 million.
Absolutely,
it was amazing when you can show the value of your work. The board's going to go, "Hey, this guy's going to bring in some more revenue. Let's give him some more."
Yeah, absolutely. And that final investment or that final question is is critical. Is did the investment pay off? And I think, and also to Michiel's point about improvement, the whole purpose of measurement is to get better. And sometimes things were not going to go as well, for various reasons. Marketers are paid to take risks, do experiments, try things. And the whole idea is to, to be able to do that, but also to continue to do better, over time. And that's what
experiments can be your whole budget, right?
Yeah.
Experiments can be your whole budget.
So anyway, I guess let's close out here. Really appreciate your time and really appreciate the interest in the topic. It's definitely something near and dear to all of our hearts here. And as Michiel had on the screen there is basically get ready, go ahead and ask us anything. We're ready to give you an answer. And I think we've got some experience to give you the right answers to either answer the question or at least help you to find out how to answer the question. And that's where I think all three of us want to help you with today.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Guy, for the introduction and for the wrap up.
Thank you.
We'll see you in another webinar or another event. Thanks a lot.
Thank you again.